we are now to the Cognos Analytics roadmap. So here we want to look at what we're going to call rumors and ruminations. So what may be upcoming in the product in the near future. So I'm not going to read you the entire IBM disclaimer statement, but I'm going to leave it up here for a second. Essentially what this says is that IBM has shared their plans for what they're going to develop, but this stuff is all still under development. So just because something's shown here or they showed it at the conference doesn't mean that it's going to materialize in that exact form, or that we're even going to see the feature at all. Generally, from what we've seen in the past, many of the things that they show in these types of roadmap sessions, it does show up, but a few things maybe don't, or they look a little different. So that's the gist of it. And again, our disclaimer is essentially just the same as what IBM said there, just in a few less words. Okay, so let's look at some of the things that are being introduced. So first of all, this concept of the image gallery. So if you've used a report authoring today, you know that in order to get an image in, it's not the most intuitive thing. So they're going to make that a lot easier. So you're going to get multiple folders for organization. And then when you drop an image in, rather than going and having to open up a property and specify the number of pixels for width and height, you're actually going to be able to just click handles and drag it to size it to your environment. We have throughout some of these features some unanswered questions that are just things that we've kind of been pondering based on what we've seen. And IBM might even still be figuring out how some of these things are going to work. So we don't have answers for these things today, but we don't know exactly how these images are going to be governed. We understand that you're not going to have to go and upload them to the server ahead of time. You're going to be able to add them interactively through the user interface, but we don't know exactly how governing those will work. And we don't know how this works with dynamic images from URLs or from your data. So there's still some things to be seen, but this should definitely make it easier to work with images. And kind of on a similar note, this drag and drop placement. So if you work with dashboards, like in dashboards, you can drag something directly onto the report exactly where you want it to be, and that's where it will show up. Well, you're going to be getting a similar concept in authoring. At least that's the plan. So you can drag something directly onto the canvas, and it's going to show up right there where you dragged it. You don't have to put in a table first. Today, if you want to put something on a page, you got to set up a table, kind of set up the appropriate rows and columns so that you can position something as you like it. Not the case with what IBM is looking at introducing here. So we don't know how this works exactly in the background at this point. That might still be getting ironed out. We don't know if it's making tables and you're just not having to specify them yourselves, or if things are being coded differently. We don't know exactly how existing pixel perfect reports will be impacted, but this should definitely shorten the runway to creating reports, especially when combined with a few of these other things we're going to see, like the format painter. So you'll be able to select multiple elements on the page, and you'll be able to paste existing or new styles. So if anyone has experienced any frustration in Cognos 11 with not being able to select multiple objects and do a format paste onto them, that could be alleviated here. We don't know for sure if it's going to work with copied styles yet, but we have encouraged our customers, and we as a best practice try to implement styles and classes frequently when we're doing development, because it really aids in consistency across environments, and it can really help reports be created more quickly. And so this is surfacing some of those things, making them more easily available. I'm very excited about this, the ability to copy and paste objects. So that doesn't mean copy and paste objects within a dashboard or report. Obviously, you can already do that. This means taking something from one dashboard, and then you can put it in a report. So you're actually getting some interchange between two separate, would have been completely separate applications really, other than they utilize the same data sources. You're able to take an object from a dashboard, put it into a report. So lots of questions with this. How are the prompts handled? How are master detail relationships handled? We don't know the details of those things now, but this conceptually is going to be very powerful. So similarly, you'll be able to take something from a report, and this doesn't just mean if you're in authoring and you're designing a report, but even if you ran a report and you like a visualization that's in it, you'll be able to copy it and then paste it into dashboards. And furthermore, you'll be able to more precisely place it where it should be because of the much demanded feature of grid lines. So this is very emphasized here because a lot of people are asking for this. So you get grid lines, you get the ability to snap to grid, so you can position things precisely, make sure they line up and are professional, and then snap to object as well. So when you drag something else onto the page, you can make sure it is aligned. So you'll be able to edit visuals in place and do so more precisely. So adding titles, of course, but also being able to modify the colors of those titles, the font, etc. That will just provide a more granular level of control within dashboarding. Again, we're talking about dashboarding here. Obviously, you could do those kinds of things in authoring for a long time. Being able to choose a very specific color from a palette rather than being constrained to some predefined color palette. When you suggest one, Cognos will suggest some complementary colors, which should lead to more visually appealing dashboard designs while still giving you control. You can change those if you don't want to utilize the complementary colors that are suggested. There's an expansion of mapping that continues to be added onto, and so specifically introducing this Lasso tool. So if there's points on a map, you don't have to control click to select them, but you could actually lasso the ones that you want. This will be implemented elsewhere as well, such as in a scatter plot. There's some new visuals that are being introduced, specifically this driver spiral from Watson. So the spiral visualization essentially shows you the predictive strength of a particular field or a combination of fields. And so this was in Watson Analytics. It's being brought now into Cognos Analytics. Now, this is perhaps the most exciting of all. It's this completely new studio that's kind of based on Watson Analytics. It's called Exploration. Okay, so here's kind of a close-up of what it looks like. So we're going to dive into some different elements here that make up an exploration. So you get to this through any existing visualization. So you could have a visual in a dashboard, and then there's going to be a button called Explore, and this takes you to this exploration module. So exploring a visualization, it's going to show you details, but in a natural language, and it's going to try to point out things that maybe wouldn't necessarily be immediately obvious. So you see some examples there. Values range between a minimum of 4, a maximum of 97, just some things that you would otherwise have to deduce by trying to look at that visual and pull them out. In a natural language, they're going to be communicated to you from Cognos using some intelligence. When you're in this exploration module and you're looking at a visualization, there's going to be related visualizations that are going to show up at the top of the screen, and that will be suggestions that maybe you would have additional insights embedded in them. And those related visualizations are actually going to be learned. So what other people in your environment liked, what they found useful, you'll see there's kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down button there. So if another user found something useful, or if you have found a particular type of visualization to be useful, that's going to be recorded and it's going to be used to come up with smarter recommendations. And as you explore these visualizations, there's going to be this bar on the left that is going to show you a history of the visualizations that you have gone through. And I think this is a really smart idea because the whole idea is being able to explore. And if you're worried about not being able to get back to some visual you were looking at because it had something interesting in it, and so you're hesitant to click on another thing or kind of drill in to find more information, then it would potentially impede your exploration. But by having this, you can always get back to something that you were looking at a minute ago. And then at the bottom of that, there'll be a button so that you can actually create a new exploration. And any of these natural language insights that are provided, you'll be able to click on those, and it's going to then put a visual element onto your existing visual that will illustrate that insight. So for instance, this average here, you see it threw a bar on to show you where that average actually sits. Or likewise, if you click on in this example, the near north side loop, you see there's a few items here that are highlighted based on the natural language insight that was provided. And then there's these numbers on the axis titles that they have predictive insights basically embedded in them. So if you click on them, you're going to see the predictive insights that are there, and then it's going to show you the strength of those predictive insights. And if you click on those, then you can get to this sunburst decision tree, which is essentially going to give you kind of a visual of how that predictive strength was actually reached. And this as well, this visualization is also totally interactive. And you'll find more details about it in natural language. So it's, as you can tell, this is kind of part of the whole exploration model. As you dive into something and get another visual, it retains those same elements. And so you can ask Cognos questions as well in natural language. Just like it provides you information in natural language, you can also feed natural language in. You could ask what a data source is. You can ask for clarification. Might give you multiple answers, multiple possibilities you can cycle through. Often the answers will be a visualization. And they're even looking at on Cognos Mobile, being able to utilize your voice. So to actually ask, hey, can I see revenue broken out by business unit, and have a visual created based on that voice input. Potentially very powerful stuff. So we're really excited about some of the things that are coming down the pipe here that are on the roadmap. Again, we don't know if everything will show up exactly as it was illustrated at the Think conference, but these are definitely the areas that are being focused on, and we're looking forward to seeing a lot of these things show up in the product in the near future.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. So before we jump into Q&A, and again, another reminder that you can post a question in the GoToWebinar interface on the right side of your screen. But before we get into that, I wanted to invite everyone to stay connected to us in a couple different ways. One, you can check out our newsletter, the PMsquare Journal, which we try to jam-pack with the most relevant updates in the industry, as well as articles addressing both technical and business topics. So make sure you're on that newsletter list. Additionally, visit the PMsquare website blog, which houses a lot of the technical articles as well as additional items for you to consume there as well. One other thing, Mike mentioned this earlier on the presentation here, but we do have a couple upcoming webinars. On May 10th, we're going to be diving into IBM's new FlexPoints program for IBM licensing and sharing with you everything you need to know and how you can take advantage of that. And then on June 7th, we'll be showing you how you can proactively monitor, quantify, and promote user adoption within your company with PMsquare Thrive. And by then, some of those roadmap features that Mike talked about earlier today will be in the product to be able to show off at that point.